Hi, if you are watching right now, this is the replay. We are no longer live, but welcome. Today I'm going to be making the Big B with quite a few changes. We'll talk about those when my TikTok friends jump on. Hello everybody. Happy Thursday. Hello, hello, hello. Isn't it pretty? This is actually going to be, I quilted some vinyl earlier. So the outside of the bag is going to be this really pretty dark teal that's quilted. And then instead of shoulder straps, we're going to use this webbing. And then the interior fabric is going to be this really pretty dark teal as well. Hello. Hey, Tammy. Okay, so this is going to be, I know it doesn't look like it, this is going to be a Big B, and there's quite a few modifications that I'm going to be doing to this. I wanted a bag that I'm going to be making this for myself, but if anybody is like absolutely in love with it when it's done, if you'd like to purchase it, just send me an email and I can make myself another one. Can you show the back of the quilted piece? Yeah, sure. So the foam that I use, which is what this is one side fusible, and I make my pattern piece an inch wider and an inch longer, and then I just, this was 13 inches. So I'll start from one corner, I'll go over 13 inches, and then I'll make a line on both sides, 13 inches, and then it's just a 1 inch gap for each of the lines. And then I just sew. And then what I do is I trim out, or I note what my pattern piece is. I go ahead and sew about an 1/8 inch in from the edge of my pattern piece. That's going to lock all those stitches, so that way when I cut it, it won't start unraveling. So I do a stitch 1/8 of an inch in, and then I go ahead and cut it to size. Hey you guys. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. I'm gonna kind of show you, give you an idea of the outside of this bag. So normally, let me grab a Big B. Let me see if I have one. I do. So this is the standard Big B pattern. The outside is going to be a full panel, so I'm not going to have the bottom accent piece. It's still going to be the same size because I just measured to include this in the full piece. We're not going to have any hardware on the outside. I'm going to add a slip pocket on one side, and then I'm going to add a zipper pocket on the other side. I think those are the only modifications that I'm making. And the handle is going to come from the bottom all the way up to the top and then come around and come down this way. So that's another modification. And then I'm just doing a couple of small ones for the inside. Let me put this up and then we'll get started. Hey you guys! Let me start with the outside so I can kind of give you guys an idea of what I'm doing. So let me grab all of my stuff, get everything situated. It's for the inside. This is the inside. This is the inside. Okay, so we'll start with the slip pocket and then we'll do the zipper pocket. Okay, so here's my idea. We're going to do a little slip pocket on the front. And then these are going to come, our straps are going to come all the way down to the bottom to cover up those raw edges, because I'm not going to be sewing those raw edges. So we're going to do that first. Thanks. I got this solid color from Marine Vinyl Fabrics. Make sure I'm doing the right. Okay. So I just have one interior piece and one piece of vinyl. I'm going to clip them right sides together and then sew them down. I know, I'm so excited. I was thinking about this morning because I have a couple of custom orders, but I'm just waiting to hear back to finalize the details for them. And I was like, well, what can I make today? And this is what I came up with. Okay. I want to make sure I'm doing the right side. Hold tight. You do some measuring. Okay. Perfect. So that's right. So I'm just going to sew these two together. Just at the top. Because like I said, the sides, the raw edges on the sides are going to be covered. Did I move already? No, we're not moving until the 23rd of June. Just going to clip the bottom of the pieces together so that way I can do a top stitch at the top. And then I think what I'm going to do is add my nameplate here. So I'm just going to center this. Let's do 2 inches from the top. I'm gonna add a couple marks. Clip down. Open this up and then go ahead and poke those holes out. Hey, Just Mammy. Okay. Is it always Thursdays? The game? There we are. And then now I'm just going to tack the bottom down just so it doesn't move around when I sew it on. Oh, the last one, okay. All right, now what I'm gonna go ahead and do is center this. Right in between here. And then I'm just going to go ahead and sew the sides down. And then now what I'm going to do is take the straps, clip them in place. I could probably tape them, but I don't know if I'm just going to clip them down. So I'm going to clip them down here at the bottom, and then I'm going to clip them up here at the top so I know everything is nice and straight, or nice and even, I should say. Thank you. So the same distance that I'm clipping it down here, I'm clipping it up here. But I'm only going to sew this up to about an inch and a half from the top. And that way when I sew the outside and inside together, I have that space at the top. You don't want to go all the way to the top if you're adding a lining. But I want to make sure it's nice and straight. There we go. So I think I'm just going to sew up here, sew across, and then sew back down. I know, I'm so excited. I was thinking about this morning. Let me go ahead and make a mark. That is an inch and a half, so I know where to stop. Going to just add some clips. There we go. So I know where to stop over there. And then I'm going to stop over here. There we are. I know. So I don't know if I finished telling the story. So I wanted to make myself a big B, especially for getting on the plane to leave because we are traveling with 2 dogs. So I wanted a bag big enough to hold like snacks and other things that I'm going to need to carry with me, like headphones, a book, whatever, because I think it's like an 8-hour flight to Chicago and then another 3-hour flight to DC. So I wanted a bag big enough to be able to take with me a whole bunch of stuff that I need. All right, so let me go ahead and get this sewn down. But again, if somebody is interested in purchasing this, just send me an email because I can always make myself another one. All right, so I'm going to stop right here, come across, and then come down. So that one is sewn down, plus I have the clearance at the top so that I can sew the inside lining to it and then do a top stitch. Carrie, are you okay? What did Carrie say? Oh. Do I have any moderators in here? I know Daph was in, but I'm not sure if she left. Right here. Is your husband staying in? You mean staying in? Yeah. We're actually transferring to his next position. I don't know what it's called. His next job. So we'll be in Virginia for 3 years. Okay, perfect. So we have our little pocket. We didn't have to sew our sides down because that is now covered. And this, I designed this to be big enough to fit my cell phone. So that way I can just tuck it in and grab it in and out really quickly. Did you get your home? No, not yet. Not yet, but I do have a virtual tour tomorrow for one property, and then we're doing another one on Sunday for a different property. Okay, now what I want to do is, I don't want this really thick webbing at the top, so what I want to do is just fold it in half and sew that down. So it just gives it a really pretty smaller handle. So I'm just going to add some clips along the edge. I'm just lining up those ends and clipping it together. I'm not sure how far down I want to have it folded yet. Hello, I missed you. Hey, Stacy. I was on Tuesday, but I was on vacation before that, so I missed you guys too. All right, let me stop here and see what I think. Oh, I like that. So from where I sewed, I'm gonna come up to 1, 2, 3, 4 inches. I really like the look of that handle. And like I said, it'll be smaller on my shoulder. Can I buy this bag? If you must. Yeah, you can send me an email, info@butterbags.com. Let me know that you're interested in this bag. And it's going to be the regular price of the Big B, but because there's so many additional modifications and it's quilted, it'll probably be like $45 more than the original one is. So if you want to wait to send that email until you see it all done, that's fine. You don't have to do it right now. But I'm going to go with whoever sends me the email first. I have that webbing and wondered. Yeah. Oh, you're welcome. All right. Let's see where I need to stop. Right here. There we go. So that is what the shoulder strap, I don't know, do you guys think that that's too much down? Should I let some of it up? I'm not really sure. Do you guys think that I should have it a little bit flatter, a little bit taller? Just so the shoulder piece would be folded? Let's see what that looks like. Let's see if we did it right here. I don't know, I think I might like that a little bit better. Move up. Let some out. Yeah. I think I agree. So from the top of the bag, let's go 6 inches. Which will be right here. I agree. There we are. Yeah, I think I like that better. Have it a little bit flatter. It will cut into it. What do you mean it'll cut into it? Alright, let's see what happens. I'm going to do a 3.5 stitch length. I like the creating on the fly. Okay. The good thing about me getting ready to move is that I don't plan on restocking anything. So all of my live videos from here on out are either going to be a custom order, which I can't really create on the fly, or it can be something like this. I like it. I like it better with just the top of it. And then the bottom being a little bit more straight. I like that. Okay, let's do the other side. So one of the side is going to be the front of the bag. The other side of the bag is going to look the exact same, except for I'm going to add a zipper pocket right here. Me personally, on the zipper pockets on the outside of my bags, I like to have like my credit cards and my IDs. I know it's secure, but I can also get to it really quickly, like if I'm going through a military gate or if I'm at the grocery store and I have to just pull it out really quickly. And that's usually all that I keep in my zipper pocket is just like my driver's license, my ID, and then I have a business credit card and then a personal credit card for my stuff. I know I'm probably giving you guys too much information, but it is what it is. Alright, so I want to make sure that my zipper pocket is at the top of my zipper pocket is the same distance down as the slip pocket is. So I'm going to just measure this, which is 4 1/4. So let's switch out. And I need it to be centered. There we go. So that's 4 1/4. What do you line with to get that subtle quilt effect? Foam. I'll show you. I don't want to move my ruler. So let me just put this on and then I'll show you. I'm not going to use this super strong tape. I have this Wonder Tape that I get from Amazon and it's not as sticky. And I really like using this for the overlay because I'm going to be sewing right along the bottom of this and I'm going to be sewing through the tape. So I personally like this tape for my overlays opposed to the leather tape that I normally use. So if you're watching this back on the replay on my YouTube, I will go ahead and link where I get this Wonder Tape. Okay. I did not make the edges really pretty. Normally I make them rounded, but because I'm going to be sewing over the sides, it didn't need to be pretty. All right, so let me go ahead. That tape came right off. All right, let me go ahead and center this. Okay, somebody was asking about the back of it. The back has foam, and then I just make 1-inch lines and then just stitch over them. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just sew around the outside of this to secure it to my panel. I'm also not going to worry about pulling my thread through because, again, I am going to be covering up those edges. All right, let me get this fabric out of here. I was like, that doesn't look like a 4 1/4. It looks like a little bit more, but it is. Good. So I'm just going to cut through. And cut all the way around. You know what got me thinking about this? I saw a bag. I think I was on Instagram where I saw a bag and it was kind of like a square shaped bag. It was quilted and it reminded me of my Becca bag without the outside pockets. And I was like, I would love just a plain bag quilted with pockets. So it made me think about this. All right, I have this zipper. It's a dual sliding zipper. I have 2 zipper pockets, so I'm just going to go ahead and cut this in half. Use one for the outside zipper pocket and one for the inside zipper pocket. So I'm going to set this aside while I work on the pocket. Down my tension way down. Let me warm up my iron. Hey Janice, how are you? Alrighty, that is going to be our zipper pocket. I'm just going to cut some of this excess off. While my iron is heating up, because I know I have to do another zipper pocket for the inside, I'm just going to go ahead and get that prepped. Good. Just knock out both of them. Now what I'm going to do is iron this flat. So we're going to open this up and give that a little press. It's just going to allow everything to lay nice and flat. Does your machine have a needle positioner? No. It's just a really basic straight stitch sewing machine. But I'm pretty sure they sell that as an add-on. I'm pretty sure I've seen an add-on for it. And I've even thought about buying one. All right, that one is pressed open. We're gonna press this one open. You need an ironing mat, I know. I only iron on my table during my lives. I have an actual ironing board that's right next to me at all times, but it's so far away and I just kind of wanted to show you guys. So yeah, I don't normally iron on my table. All right, let's go ahead and add this to our zipper overlay that we just did. Now for this one, I am going to use the strong tape because taping on the foam is not an easy canvas to tape on. So I want something a little bit stronger. There we go. Pull off the backing. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and center this pocket and this. I want to make sure I have the same amount of space on both sides. I do. There we go. Get my zipper pull in. There we go. And then now I'm just going to sew along the inside of the box. So it's like there's a little bit more zipper tape exposed on the bottom than on the top. So let me just even that out real quick. There we go. Okay. These sides are going to be covered. I stitched down like one stitch too far on the side, so I had to back it up. But that's going to be covered though, the handles. So I'm not going to stress out about it. There we are. Shucks, you know what? I wanted to wait to do this until after I put my handles on. Because what's going to happen is that it's going to sew that pocket down, which isn't a big deal. I told myself when I was cutting all this stuff out and like working it out through my head earlier, like don't add the pocket until after you've added the straps, but it's okay. It's no big deal. It's just going to sew down a little bit more of this pocket than I would have liked, but it's okay. I'm still going to have a decent sized pocket on the back. All right, let's go ahead and sew this together. Just keep in mind, if you're making these modifications, add this after you add your handle. There we are. So I'm just going to trim this excess fabric out of the way. Trash can. All right, there we go. So now what I want to do is I want to go ahead and sew this pocket down to the bottom. Because I'm going to be sewing on the front handles, I don't want this to shift around. So if I just tack it at the bottom, we should be good. There we go. Now it won't move around while I'm sewing it. Building a bag is almost like chess. Exactly. You are 100% correct. It is just like chess. You have to think through the next step before you do this step. All right. Let's go ahead and get our strap on. So this is going to be covering the sides of it like that, and I'll still have access in and out. And what I was thinking about doing as I was designing this in my head earlier is to upgrade the Big B pattern. So the pattern for this bag without these modifications are available for purchase, but I was thinking about maybe adding these modifications in like a little pack and updating the pattern whenever I get time. I might have some time to do it before I move. So this is, somebody asked what bag I'm making. This is called the Big B, but it is highly modified. She's going to look like a totally different bag when I'm done. Okay, so we're going 1.5 inches. We're going to stop sewing that there and there. Then 1.5 inches here. There we go. Those are my place marks where I know I gotta stop sewing. I wish my machine could sew heavy fabrics from the 80s. Yeah, I have a domestic sewing machine. You know what? I could probably make this bag on my domestic sewing machine, but it's also a Juki. All right, let's do it. Oh, you know what? I did not make. Oh, okay, we're good. All right, so yeah, I'm going to be sewing over that zipper pocket. That's why you don't have to worry about it being pretty. And you could actually just take 2 small pieces of vinyl, one for the top and then one for the bottom, since the sides are going to be covered up. You don't have to do an entire overlay. All right, there we are. So it did sew that pocket down just a little bit right here. And had I added this afterwards, I could have pulled this back. That'll still be plenty of space for my cards. I always enjoy watching you sew because, oh, thanks. Yeah, I've been doing it for a really long time, so all of this is mainly muscle memory. That's just my iron going off. Okay, and then what did we do? 5 inches from the top? I think we did 5 inches from the top. I'm going to grab it and measure it. I'm just going to go ahead and start folding and clipping right now. I'm pretty sure it was 5. Yeah, a Teflon foot would also help you sew over like more slippery fabric as well as thicker fabric. A walking foot, I'm not sure if your sewing machine has that as an attachment option, but that also helps with thicker fabric. Which pattern is this? So this is a highly modified Big B. It's just some modifications that I was thinking of this morning. And was like, I'm sure I could use the Big B for that. All right, let me remeasure. So if you missed the first part, this is going to be the front of the bag. It just has a little slip pocket. So I need to measure from the top. That was 5 inches. Nope, it was 6. So we're just folding the shoulder strap in half and just tacking that down, sewing that down. So that way I don't have a really thick strap on my shoulder when I'm done. All right, what did I say, 6? It's almost right. I'll have to check my machine, probably has to be started first. I got my time wrong. Oh no. Yeah, it wasn't you. I don't know if you saw my most recent post, but at first I did say 7 p.m. Eastern, but I meant 6 p.m. Eastern. So at first it was definitely my fault. But then I made another post, which I know not everybody is sitting around on their phones waiting for me to post. So you may have just missed that. Great idea with the straps. Isn't it cute? You missed the beginning. So this will be, the replay will be available on my YouTube channel later today. All right. I don't know why this is so odd. There we are. Alrighty, front, back, done. Now we have a little pocket. It's big enough for our cards. I could probably get my phone. Yeah. I might lose a little bit of this bottom part when I sew the bottom on, so it might not fit the phone, but that's okay. It'll fit the cards, which is mainly what I like to use in my zipper pocket on the outside anyways. I'm not the only one that feels odd when I'm sewing. No. It has to be like at a certain way for me to sew. All right, so I'm just marking the center of the bottom on the front as well as the back. And then I'm going to grab my bottom piece, which I did not quilt. It's just a piece of vinyl, and then I have Peltex adhered to it, and that's going to make it stronger. So I'm just going to mark the center of that, match those center marks, and then sew that down. There we are. Hey, Nikki. It's going to be really thick right here because I'm sewing over the bottom, the strap, the foam, and the pocket. So there's quite a few layers. I'm just going to go ahead and sew those stitches down so that they don't come unraveled while I'm working on the bottom. So I just cut into my quilted stitching, and those will start to unravel if I don't lock them in. So I'm just doing a little tack stitch just to hold those down. I don't want my bag to start unraveling. All right, now what we're going to do is open this up and do a top stitch along the bottom piece. There we are. So that's what it looks like with the top stitch. And then we're going to do the exact same thing for the other side. This is going to be a really decent size bag. I also want to go ahead and just trim. I'm going to hit this with a lighter just so that the zipper doesn't unravel. Not that it matters, it's stitched in there like 4 times. Keep it clean. All right, so we're going to match the center mark on the bottom to the center mark on this panel as well. Clip it in place and then sew it down. And tack those stitches down before. I probably should have just done it all the way across. There we go. Now I can trim that down. I'm just trimming right underneath that row of stitching that I did. All right, now we're going to open this up and do a top stitch. She's getting big. Hey, Susan. All right, now what we're going to do, since we have the front, back, bottom, we're going to go ahead and just line our sides up and then clip those together. And then sew those down. Sorry, I know that's an odd angle. I'm so excited about this bag. It's gonna be so pretty. I'll grab some water. Isn't it pretty? And then you have the cute little 3D, we're gonna call these 3D straps. Did you quilt it? No, I quilted it. It's just 1-inch lines going both ways. And I just started at one corner. I counted over 13 inches and I made a mark on the bottom. So, or the bottom, you can do 13 inches on the bottom. And then I just attached that mark at the 13 inch to the corner. And then I did the opposite. I did a stitch here, counted 13 inches over, drew a line, and then I just went an inch out and then an inch out. Super easy. I have a YouTube video on how to quilt vinyl yourself. And then if you want a bigger block, then you would just make the line 1.25 inches or 1.5 inches away from the first line that you drew and just keep going. But these are 1-inch diamonds. All right, sides are sewn up. Now we're just going to attach the side and the bottom. I'm gonna try to clip my seam open so everything lays nice and flat. There we go. And before I sew that down, I'm just gonna go ahead and do the other side. Open up my seam so it's nice and flat. There we go. So that is what the inside of the bag looks like. It's not going to be seen though. We're going to make a lining for it next and then put the inside and outside together. Oh. You probably can't see this part, I'm sorry. Okay, now while I'm here, when we put the inside and outside together, we're going to sew them together around the top. I want to make sure that the top is nice and flat, so I'm just going to sew this seam open. And then I'll open it up and show you what it looks like. There we go. So I just sewed the seam open, so I don't have any bulkiness at the top when I'm sewing the lining to it. Will this be live? Yeah, this live, the replay will be on my YouTube. Yep. I usually don't get a chance to do it until about like 7 p.m. my time, which is a little after, I think it's 1 a.m. Eastern time. So it'll be available tomorrow to rewatch. All right, so that side seam's open as well. Let me turn it right side out to show you guys what we just did. Oh, she is thick. I usually do this on my lap, so it's a little easier. There we go. So we have to work on the lining, but this is what it's going to look like when it's done. So we have our outside zipper pocket, plenty big enough. Let me see now that the bottom is sewn on if my phone will fit. Yeah, it will. But my phone, I'm going to be using this pocket for. That way I can just easily grab it in and out. I know, isn't it pretty? Especially with the quilting. I love the quilting. All right, let me go ahead and set the outside aside, and we're going to go ahead and work on the interior. All right, so the interior has a zipper pocket. I did round these corners because it is going to be visible. Before I do that, let me do my slip pocket. All right, so I wanted to make the pocket wider, and then I'm going to section it off. So it'll be a dual slip pocket. So I have an accent piece of vinyl for the top. What I'm first going to do is just sew these two pieces together, just wrong sides together. Let me grab a couple clips so that way my fabric doesn't shift. I'm going to just use pins. Dial my tension way down because I'm just sewing 2 layers of cotton. I don't backstitch when I start or stop, and the reason is because the lightness of the fabric and the heaviness of the machine usually cause my fabric to pucker at the top. I don't know if you can see that. You might be able to see it a little bit better here. So it's kind of puckered up. So if I don't backstitch, I can just stretch it out to take away that puckering. All right, now what we're going to do is take our accent piece. I'm gonna put, let's just use this, it's easier. Use this. Hello. I'm gonna use some double-sided tape on the top as well as the bottom. And that is just going to allow this to hold on to my fabric while I'm sewing. There we go. And then I'm going to go ahead and sew that down. So I'm just going to do one line to stitch it down, and then I'm just going to do a second line at the top. Just because I think it makes it look a little bit prettier. All right. Just going to get rid of this excess vinyl. Uh-oh, got a phone call. So here's one of my inside lining pieces. I'm just going to line up the bottom and then sew that down just along the bottom. And I'm going to go ahead and just add a notch to the bottom center. That is going to tell me where we're going to connect the bottom piece, but it's also going to give me my measurement for the separation of the slip pocket. So I'm just going to fold it, give it a little press. That way I have my mark, my halfway mark, so I can section off these pockets. There we are. So So that is my dual slip pocket. I could tack this down. No, I probably will. Just so I don't have to worry about it when I have to sew the two pieces together. There we go. All right, now the interior panel pieces get a accent at the very top with vinyl. I think I left that in my cutting room, so let me just go grab that really quick. Okay. So at the top of it, it gets a accent piece of vinyl. We're gonna put those right sides together and then sew them down. And then we're going to open that up and do a top stitch. There we go. All right, so this is going to be one side of the interior of the bag with our dual slip pocket. I'm going to set this aside and then we're going to do our zipper pocket. So I'm going to add some double-sided tape to the back. That's going to hold it in place while I'm sewing it on. Take that backing off. And then I'm probably going to do it, let's do 2 1/4 inches down. And then centered. There we go. And the first step is just to go ahead and sew around the outside. This one I am going to be pulling my thread through because you are going to see it when it's done. Uh-oh. I got my little puzzle piece game. All right. Pull that thread back through so I can knot it off. Did you sew just the outside box for zipper? Did you sew just outside box for zipper first here? Are you asking about the outside of the bag? That zipper pocket? Yeah, the process to add the zipper pocket is the same for the inside and outside. You first sew around the outside, cut away the fabric, sew your zipper pocket together, and then install it. Hopefully that answers your question. If not, if you ask something different, rephrase. but the process is the same. I just didn't pull my threads through because you don't see the sides of the pocket for the exterior. So the first step is to sew along the outside of your overlay. Once you add your zipper pocket, you're going to sew inside of the box. Okay, good. All right, let's get this fabric out of here. I like to fold it down just to get it as far away from this edge as possible so I don't wind up cutting through it. There we are. And now I'm going to add some more double-sided tape. And that's going to hold that zipper pocket in place. Is this a special order? No, I initially wanted to make it for myself. I know a couple people had asked about purchasing it. So if you're interested in purchasing it, you can send me an email, info@butterbags.com. And then just whoever's first to pay for it can get it. But no, initially this was going to be my bag. But I mean, I can always remake it because I have all the same material to remake it. All right, now we're going to go ahead and center that zipper. There we go. Make sure the pull's included. I want to make sure I have the same amount. Oh, I don't. I need to scoot it over a little bit. Stay on pull, keeps getting caught in it. There we go. There we go. All right, now we're going to go ahead and sew on the inside of this box. And then just like when I sewed the outside, I'm going to go ahead and pull my thread through to knot it off. That way it looks like a seamless row of stitching all the way around. Go. Do you buy the overlay or make it? I make it. It's a really simple, I actually have a free pattern for an overlay on my website if you're interested in it. If you go to my website, butterbags.com, and then in the menu, click on DIY, there's a digital pattern link, and then there is a pattern for a free zipper overlay. But yeah, I make it. It's super simple. All right. Now we're going to go ahead, pull our pocket down to meet the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and just trim this pocket flush with the lining. I'm going to pull this down. Now, this is the pocket that I'm going to use to turn our bag right side out. So I'm going to leave the bottom open. Let me turn my iron back on. So I'm just going to be sewing my sides together. Oh, this is going to be tight. I pulled it over a little too much. I'm gonna do it this way. I'm going to go ahead and trim off my excess on this side. The other one is tight. And then I'm going to go ahead we're good. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a finishing edge on my pocket by just rolling it under. I like it about a 1/2 inch wide. And then I normally just iron that flat. Grab my iron. Down a little. There we go. And then next what we're going to go ahead and do is add our accent piece for the top. So we're just going to line those up right sides together, clip it, and then sew it in place. Now the pattern traditionally calls for a magnetic snap. That's going to be the only hardware on this bag. And when I was designing it for me, I wanted a magnetic snap. That way it's quick access in and out of the bag. And because I'm using this for travel, I wanted something quick. So I'm going to go ahead and keep that magnetic snap closure. All right, now what we're going to do is open this up so that we can give this a top stitch. There. I need to mark the bottom center so that way I can add that bottom piece, get everything lined up. That pocket out of the way. I'm going to grab my bottom, going to mark the center. Then we're going to match the centers, clip it in place, and then sew it down. Trim my sides. And then at this point you can sew down or top stitch it. I don't, but I know some people like to do that. And then I'm going to go ahead and match my centers again and then sew this down. My sides. All right, and then now we're going to sew our sides together. So I'm going to start by making sure that where my vinyl and my fabric meet, I want to make sure that that is lined up correctly. And then I'm just going to clip all the way down the side. And then same thing over here. We want to make sure that where this meets is lined up. And then clip those sides down. There we are. And then now we're going to go ahead and sew it together. Did you move already? No, I'm not moving until almost the end of June. So I still got a month. All right, now before we make this bag 3D by opening this up and sewing this down, while my bands are just together, I'm going to go ahead and install my magnetic snap. So I'm just going to add a mark to the center. Bring that all the way down. Grab my hardware. So this is the only hardware that I'm using on the bag. Normally you would need 4 squares for our connectors on the outside, but remember I sewed those directly to the bag, so I don't need those. I hate moving. Same. And then now I'm going to go ahead and just poke through both layers while they're clipped together. That way I know they're going to line up perfectly when the bag is done, because this is where they naturally line up. And then we're just poking through both. Take off our clips and then install our magnetic snap. One goes on one side and then the other goes on the other side. You sent me an email? Okay, I'll check it as soon as I'm done. There we go. So that is our closure on the bag. And then now what we're going to do is sew open or sew our side to the bottom. I'm going to open that seam up so that I can sew that nice and flat. We don't have that bulkiness on the bottom. And then do the same thing here. There we are. Then I'm going to sew that down. So this is going to be the Big B XL. I think that's a cute name for it because it's got all the bells and whistles. It looks like I just ran out of thread. Let me see if I have one. I don't, that's lighter. Let me just make myself a bobbin real quick. What is a good first project for a beginner who got their first sewing machine? So like you've never sewn anything before? When I first started, I made a little skirt with some elastic. I mean, that was one of the first projects that I made. And that was pretty easy. Because you're really just sewing 2 rectangles and then you're folding over the top of the rectangle, sewing that down and then adding your elastic on the side of it. And that way it doesn't have to fit you perfectly because the elastic will allow you to make it a little bit bigger and still fit once it's on. So you're really just cutting 2 rectangles. You're going to sew them together at the side, just like this. See how this is sewn together at the side? And then you just make yourself a little casing by folding over the top of it. And then you sew that down all the way around, leave about 3 or 4 inches unsewn, and then you can put your elastic in. All right, I don't need a full bobbin. I'm just going to stop right there. Break time at trivia night with the ladies. Oh, congrats! My first project in home. Oh, pillowcase. Yeah, that's pretty easy too. Which, I mean, that's kind of the same idea. You just don't have to put in elastic. And you said 3 sides instead of 2. But yeah, that's a really easy project as well. All right, let me thread this up and we'll be back in business and finish this bag. There's only a couple steps left. Uh-oh. There we go. All right. I only have quilt cotton. What can I use to provide a firm shape? So on the outside of my bags, I like to use a woven interface like SF101. Or you can use multiple layers of cotton. That will thicken it up, make it a little bit more firmer. All right, I'm just sewing open my side seam because remember how we're going to connect the inside and outside by sewing them together at the top. So I want to make sure this is nice and open. All right, done, done, done. So remember how I said I left this zipper pocket open on the bottom so we can turn our bag right side out? I'm going to make sure that my zipper is open. That way I can grab it. I'm going to turn this right side out. So this is our inside lining. Grab my exterior that we made earlier. I'm going to turn this inside out. She's thick now. Ugh. Okay. Push my little handles down in there. Remember how I said we're not going to sew it all the way to the top? We wanted to leave some clearance for those shoulder straps, and that's so that we can sew our inside and outside together. So I'm going to tuck this little guy in. I'm going to first start by lining up my side seams. Clip that together. Clip this side together, and I'm going to go ahead and just keep clipping until they're both together. Uh-oh. All right, one more clip, and then we're going to go ahead and sew all the way around the top to join these together. I want to make sure that my tension is up because I got quite a few layers. And then I'm going to be feeling to make sure I'm not accidentally sewing over like those handles while I'm going around. So I'm just going to go kind of slow. You don't get anything extra for going fast. Just gonna clip my thread where I started, keep everything clean. I'm also going to turn on my iron, that way I can iron out any wrinkles, because remember, I'm taking this big old bag and I'm turning it right side out through that little zipper pocket. So sometimes it can get a little wrinkly, and then we're just going to iron that out. It's no big deal. Is that cotton? What, the outside? No, this is foam. This is Peltex, which is an interfacing. The foam gives the bag the thickness for the quilted effect. All right, done. So they're joined at the top. I'm going to go ahead and pull out my lining. Go in through this pocket. Grab the bottom of the exterior and then pull that through. And I'm just going to go nice and slow, just pushing and rolling until everything is out. What's your favorite store to get your supplies? I don't really have one store. I get some stuff from Amazon, some stuff from other stores. If you do this as your career or your business, I would never recommend you buy all your supplies from one place, just because anything can happen. Look at Joanne going out of business. So I have a couple of different suppliers for like my webbing. I can get it from a couple different places if I need to, etc. All right, so I'm just getting my seams poked out. I'm gonna tuck my lining in. Going to make sure that my seam is aligned and then clip that down, because what we're going to do next is a top stitch, and that's going to keep the interior separated from the exterior. It also just gives it a really pretty finish around the top with the row of stitching. Thanks, Arlene. It's a highly, highly modified Big B. I just had a little piece of thread I just had to trim. Have you ever thought about selling kits? Yeah, so I did for a little while, and they sold okay, but it's a lot of work. I mean, I didn't think when I would see like other people selling certain type of kits, like, oh, that's too easy. Well, like cutting everything, making sure there's enough in every single kit, it's just not really my thing. I am more of a finish end instead of a material kind of girl. But yeah, for wristlets, I did some wristlet kits with some of the fabric that I have printed. All right, so here's what we're looking like so far. This is just twisted, but it's fine. Before I do my top stitch, I'm going to go ahead and sew close my zipper pocket. And see, remember how we folded that over and hit it with the iron? It gives us a finish. So all I have to do is just pull it together and it's done. I'm going to go ahead and hit this with an iron when I'm done because it got a little wrinkly. Or actually, since the pocket is pulled out, I'll just go ahead and iron that down now. You do not want to iron your vinyl, it will melt it. So I'm just going to pull it out. Get those wrinkles out and then tuck it back in. Get my lining back in. There we go. So what I'm also going to do is I'm going to put the iron down inside of the bag just to get any other wrinkles out. But first I'm going to go ahead and top stitch. So I'm going to crank up my tension. I'm going to start on a side seam. You never want to start top stitching like where somebody could see it. So they're less likely to notice it if you do it on your little side seam. Tucked in there. Make sure all my straps and everything is out of the way. I'm not going to be sewing over it. And then again, just go nice and slow. This is definitely not the part where you want to mess up your final stitch. We're just sewing and rotating. Uh-oh. I could tell that it was starting to nest up by the sound of the machine. I think when I went over the hump for this, it just got a little sideways. So that's fine. I'm just going to pull that out and then sew over top of it. It didn't happen over here, so I'm not really sure what caused that to happen, but that's okay. All right. Make sure my bobbin is good. Where do you get your vinyl? How do you judge quality online? But so I've been buying this particular vinyl, which is from marinevinylfabric.com. I've been buying them for, goodness, 8 years maybe. But you really can't judge quality of vinyl online. You either have to look at reviews, join a Facebook group that talks about stuff like that. But I really like this vinyl. I've been buying it for a really long time. And then there's a lot of fabric stores that also sell vinyl in person. I know Hobby Lobby sells some. Joanne used to sell a ton of it. All right, I'm coming back to where I started. There we are. All done. Gonna leave about 1/4 inch of thread behind because I want to singe this. I don't know if my arrow. This is where my thread stopped working, so I sewed over it, and I just want to singe that thread to the rest of the thread. There we are. All right, bag is done. So here is what she looks like. Nice little slip pocket. Nice little zipper pocket. I love it. Let me go ahead and put my iron down on the inside. So I need to watch out for the accent vinyl. I don't want to touch my iron to it. But the only way to get out any wrinkles from your exterior is to go down on the interior. Just make sure you're super careful. Everything is out of the way. And I'm just going to hit it with some steam. Do the same thing over on this side. Sorry, I got steam in y'all's face. There we go. All done. I love it. And I love that we didn't go all the way down. But I mean, if you wanted to, you absolutely could. You can do it just the top, see how you like it. And then if you wanted to add more, you can just go ahead and stitch it even after it's all done. Because you can't really see the stitching in this webbing just because of the colors. So it's very forgiving if you had to continue stitching. Thank you guys. Thanks so much for watching. I'm going to jump off and wish you guys a great weekend. I will be back on Tuesday, maybe, most likely Tuesday. I have at least one more week of lives in me before I have to start packing up. This is the Big B. So let me show you what it looks like. This is the traditional Big B pattern. It's very similar, like with the inside bands. This one has a bottom band, and the way that the handles are done are a little bit different. But as far as, I mean, this, I took the bones, the skeleton of the pattern to create this one. I just changed it up a lot. So it is highly modified, but it is the same. It's the same bag. It's the skeleton of the pattern for sure. But like the bottom is the same. And if you want to make the full size panel, what I would recommend doing is start with your inside lining. So you know, oh, let me grab that. Remember how we sewed the main panel to the top accent piece? Sew those two pieces together, do your top stitch, and then measure the length and the height of that pattern piece, and that's going to be the exact same size as the outside of your bag. And then you can make just a full panel as well. What sewing machines do you recommend for beginners? I don't really have a lot of experience with a lot of different sewing machines, so I wouldn't be the one to ask, but I can tell you that there's a ton of YouTubes that cover different type of sewing machines. Can you use a zip instead of? Yeah, of course. Yeah, you can. I actually have in the pattern, it gives you an option to make a zipper panel closure instead of the magnetic snap. Again, I wanted to make this bag because I wanted to take it with me traveling, and I wanted to just be able to get in and out of the bag as fast as possible, especially traveling with 2 dogs. So I did not want a zipper closure. I wanted a magnetic snap. Will this be on YouTube? Yeah, I'm going to upload this probably later on this afternoon, so it'll be available first thing tomorrow morning. All right, you guys have a great evening and a great weekend. I will see you again on Tuesday. Bye.